So I've obviously given my brief introduction. Let's kick it off by each of you giving your introductions. Keep it short and snappy, please.
Hi, I'm Manuela Delgado. I'm with Partstown. I run Red Lightning, which is the innovation hub that supports all of our divisions. Being an innovation, most of what we work on and think about is AI. And really excited here to talk to everybody about our journey and our learnings and what we're doing to make this a foundational change in our organization.
And hi, everybody. I'm Sean King. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer and General Manager for Veritone. We are an AI software company that specializes in helping organizations, both in the commercial and public sectors, utilize their audio and video at scale.
Hi, my name is Hazard. I am a former F-35 fighter pilot, and I led an organization through AI transformation, and then wrote the book, The Art of Clear Thinking, applying decision-making and leadership principles to the business world. And I consult with companies and speak to them on leadership and decision-making.
And good morning, I'm Tarun. I work for Google, specifically Google Cloud. And my remit is to take the best of our technology and our partners and work on solutions to transform marketers' workflows and their jobs.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So just to give everyone a sense of how we're going to be approaching this today, we're going to kick it off with some broader questions that I would love for each of you to chime in on. Then we're going to get industry specific. Clearly, we have quite a plethora of experience here on stage, so excited for that spotlight and how different responses we get from all of you. And then we're going to conclude with rapid fire questions, which I hope this was good practice, your intros. So I already talked about this a little bit, but everyone these days is trying to go AI first. I'm sure you have read all these CEO manifestos on LinkedIn, Shopify being one, Duolingo being the other. Some people have walked it back. But everyone's claiming to be AI first. And if you look at a lot of recent studies, it says by 2030, every organization is going to be an AI organization. And I feel like we were saying this 10 years ago about data, right? And here we are now, and data seems to be the precursor to AI. So before we get there, I guess my first question to all of you is how do you define what it means to be AI first even, and what kind of metrics do you look at to measure success? Whoever wants to kick it off.
Go down the road.
Okay. So first of all, you mentioned data. I will say that data is the price of admission. Good and clean data is the price of admission, as you stated. I think what does success look like is it's going to be 2030. It's going to be that it's embedded throughout the entire organization. It's not just one group and one leader. And there is the upskilling and reskilling that's needed and continued training. I think that's going to be foundational. This is a foundational change, not just use cases. I think that's what's going to separate what's successful or what's not.
I like how you said that data is the price of admission. AI isn't anything without data. So if you think about if you're going to be an AI first organization, it first starts with radical organization, utilization, and governance of all of your data. And that includes both your structured data, kind of your binary data, but also your unstructured data, your audio, your video, your call recordings, your everythings. You have to think about all things in your organization as data. And that's kind of the fundamental mind shift that you have to have. And that has to be radically organized and ready to be utilized in order for you actually to be even consider yourself an AI first organization.
Yeah, it can't just be a pilot program. So really what we call bridging the valley of death, going from these pilot programs, these experiments, to actually implementing it throughout the organization. That's the really big challenge, getting the buy-in, getting the leadership to buy in, and then to be able to echo that to the employees so that they're actually using these tools.
I'll just say a big underscore the comments on data, right? Like the AI is only as good as the data at the end of the day. So depending on how fresh your data is and how differentiated your data is, that then like is a direct path into like a competitive differentiator for you, whether that's efficiency or a better customer experience or more revenue or whatever that is, right? So big plus one there. And the other thing that I would add is about maybe on the talent side and the strategy side. So from a strategy side, I would say, first of all, the AI first companies are not afraid to like completely reimagine how they deliver the customer value. So today we think about this as like, oh, I make a product, but in tomorrow's world, maybe it's how do I solve the customer's problem? And that may be still you making the product you do right now, but it may be 5 other things around that as well, right? So I think that these, at the top down, they're thinking in a fearless way, but also a scaled way about how to reimagine from a customer problem back. How can you solve that beyond your current kind of value proposition? And then on the talent side, I think it's a minimum amount of literacy for everybody in the organization. And then, you know, hopefully as the workflows change, the skill sets start to evolve as well. And for me, in 2030, you will have some version of supervisory roles, because you need to understand, like, is the AI doing the thing it should be doing? Number one. Am I compliant in the different markets in which I operate? Am I using data in a way that engenders trust with my customer or not? So like that's one layer. Then there's the operator layer of like, am I using all these tools appropriately to be smarter about how I do my job, scale faster, and innovate more? And then there's this tech layer underneath of like, do I understand like the latest and greatest about where the tech is? I mean, look at the speed at which things are moving, right? So you need those people in your organization to understand it, make it useful for the people in that organization so they can activate it within whatever their job function is. So like that's what I see potentially in the AI first world of 2030, as you put it.
I'm surprised nobody commented on these manifestos that we talked about. Do you think that's the right approach, like leadership just taking really hard stances, or what's the other way to approach it from the bottoms up, not top down?
I mean, I always look at things as what's evolutions and what's revolutions. And where I struggle with manifestos is the rate in which things are evolving, the rate in which development is happening. To make a bold stand like that, while I applaud the gutsiness and just putting it out there, I mean, we're going to wake up in 12 months from now, and what we're talking about today is not going to mean much. I mean, that's the rate. I mean, we are literally considered in the 5th or 6th, the debate on it, industrial revolution with AI. I mean, that's in the speed and advancements we're having. So while I love the manifestos, it's hard for me to get really behind them and support them, just because it's a manifesto as today, and unless you're going to be prepared to update this, and meaning that what I wrote 6 months ago may be completely useless back today, it's only as good as, you know, this moment in time.
Another sort of common theme that all of you brought up was the importance of collaboration. Now, that's always been important in the workplace, but when, you know, across the organization, different teams are trying to adopt such an AI-first mindset, it becomes even more key. Does anyone have any success stories to share or tips about how to get different, you know, organizational teams working together and encouraging cross-collaboration?
Yeah, I can take that one. So coming from a fighter pilot perspective, we constantly have a lot of tools that are thrown at us, a lot of technology. And one in particular was called Auto GCAS, which allowed the jet to pull up if a pilot blacked out or was going to run into a mountain. And we had that technology ready to go for 10 years, and yet didn't get organizational buy-in because it fundamentally came down to a leadership problem. If you just give people the technology, they're going to fight against it unless you have that leadership buy-in. And what we found is that the single greatest tool for that is conducting a debrief. So being able to conduct a debrief and having everybody a part of it, you gather that data, you can see, you know, where this is working, where it's not working, and then everybody, it's clear as day. So what I found, though, is that a lot of organizations, that data and those debriefs are just conducted at a high level. And so the individual employees, they don't understand what's going on. They don't see this data. They don't see these trends. And so being able to conduct that debrief with everybody is critical to getting buy-in for new technology.
Anyone else have anything to add there? Anything you may have done internally yourselves?
Maybe not an example as much as like themes that I see. One or two to share with the group. I see a lot of folks, or companies rather, that have these sandboxes in which you can let your employees kind of play with the tech, if you will, and do it in a protected way where it doesn't hurt, immediate business outcomes. And with it, they've also like engendered a culture of like you need to fail and iterate. And they do things like I've seen companies do Shark Tanks, where employees come up and say, "I found I could do X and Y, but it doesn't do this other thing. What if we could build that?" Right? So you're letting the organization tell you what use cases would be really interesting to invest in further. So I see that theme number one, and then the other theme I see is when they're more focused on customer goals, and there are these cross-functional teams that are lasered in on like, we're going to solve to make X customer experience more personal or more meaningful or faster and more seamless, whatever it is. And you have all these people, whether they're engineers or finance or in the operations of the business, and they're all working together to solve against that with the underlying premise of you're going to use AI along the way to get you there. So those two themes seem to always come up, no matter where I see collaboration actually working out.
This is a great segue into the industry-specific questions that I said I would shoot at all of you. All of you also brought up how important it is to move backwards from solving a customer problem in terms of developing whatever AI products you're developing. Emanuela, so for Partstown, your customers expect things to be fixed even faster now, probably, just given how much of an advantage AI gives you, and solve, broken equipment problems within hours, not days. What do you think, is sort of prompting that? How do you address that? How do you, focus in as an organization to meet these changing customer expectations?
So great question. I've completely failed in my intro to say that Partstown is a B2B company that focuses on maintenance and parts repair, among other things. And it's a great question. I think, first of all, there is the demand for more immediacy, and the things that we're really focusing on is how do we make things more proactive rather than reactive. So understanding that there's equipment that's about to fail, and get proactive and get the parts there and the technician there, in advance of your equipment breaking down. Also, that's not going to always work every single time, but when the equipment is down, how do we build tools to have the right part identified and at the location, faster than ever? And those are some of the tools that we're building right now. Better parts identification tools, also better tools for efficiency, tech efficiency, dispatching. There's a lot of layers that plays into it, but the customer expectation is, and it's getting stronger and stronger, is proactive than reactive. Not necessarily how to minimize downtime, how to really eliminate downtime if possible.
Sorry to put you in the spot,
No,
but
good.
also, given all the sort of changes happening in the global supply chain, all the
Yeah.
tariff concerns, is that adding additional pressure? And how are you sort of finding your way around that? How are you tackling that?
Every day is different. So, and I'm sure many people are going to say that, but that's just something that we need to continue to work on, and we're just very transparent, with our customers and our manufacturers and vendors on that. So, still working through that.
So Sean, next question to you. One of the concerns with generative AI technology in particular, is around ethics and just how hard it's becoming to separate what a creator has created versus what an AI system has created. Now it's sort of, you can manufacture new realities. I mean, just look at the recent VO3 model. It just looks like someone actually, like it's really hard to tell. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's just getting really, really good at it, which is also scary at the same time. How do you think this sort of synthetic AI content is shifting public trust? And, what does that mean for brands? Like, do they need to put disclaimers everywhere? How does that work?
I mean, that's a great question, and I don't think ethics necessarily go hand in hand with synthetic media just as much as media in general. I don't know if it's synthetic or real media, how much people believe anymore. I mean, even if we go back to the last election, probably 50% watch CNN, little over 50% watch Fox News. I mean, and how much do people actually believe in that? But when it comes back to brands, look, of all the technology advancements that have happened over the years, where we've frankly seen the least amount in this time has been in the production area of film, television, and broadcast. All those machines stopped during the pandemic. And when those machines stopped, we saw all this rise of digital-first content creators. And we're starting to see this. So, I mean, but again, we've seen this type of industry shift in media before. It's when we went from linear to nonlinear editing suites, and everyone thought that all the editors were going to go out of business. And no, it didn't. It just created more and more opportunity to be able to do things at a greater scale. But I mean, it is something that as a brand, you have to decide on what you want to do. I am a big fan of disclaimers if you want to, but that is a personal decision. But I think at the end of the day, you just need to make sure that you're staying authentic to who you are and your ethos as a brand and a company. That's what matters most. We worked on a completely synthetically created commercial with our friends at Nike and with some of our partners at US Open and French Tennis Federation and Australian Open. We created a Serena versus Serena match where it looked at Serena Williams early versus Serena Williams later.
How did she feel about that?
She was very supportive of it, and what we literally it was leveraging tens of thousands of hours of Serena playing tennis. And how was she likely to hit a forehand or backhand? Was it going to go cross court? Was it going to go down the line? Was she going to lob? And it created this real authentic spot that was really cool. So I mean, go on YouTube, check it out. You can find out who wins, get some earned media for our friends. But really, I mean, that's what matters most. Like as long as you are consistent and you're staying true to who you are, it really shouldn't matter on how your media is created and the production tools, because frankly, all that is it's just a tool. I mean, no different than a green screen behind you where you can superimpose. When we watch a film today, we don't know if that was filmed in San Antonio or was filmed in Burbank. All we know is that the Alamo was behind it. So we don't necessarily know that, but I am personally always a big believer of just saying you don't want to try to fool your customer. You don't want to try to trick them. So in the best way to be able to do that, and I've always been a fan of avatars and being able to use it and having digital twins, but I've also been a fan of I don't want them to be super hyper realistic. That to me is almost a little creepy. Yeah. Maybe make it a little cartoony or something like that so when you're seeing that. It's clear when I'm watching that, all right, I know this is not a human. There are so many different ways, but I think it comes back to first being who do we want to be and what do we want to be, and not to reference back a manifesto, but I wouldn't say as far as that, but like where are we comfortable doing and what are we not comfortable doing?
The reason I asked you if Serena was okay with it is because another tension here is between talent and the tools, right? Because some talent out there is going out and saying, I do not want my likeness to be used. So that is another sort of concern for companies to navigate.
Oh, it's a massive concern for those, but it's also an education. Like in any of the waivers that in SAG and anything else we're watching, if they do a film and George Clooney gives a performance and the director's like, man, I love your performance, but I hate your voice. Like they right now could have someone come in and just voice it over. There's nothing the actor can do about it. They were paid for their performance, and we saw that in Star Wars. You had one actor as Darth Vader, you had a voice for Darth Vader. You can decide what they want to happen, but I think just the realism of it. But let's also be fair, like what a wonderful tool for production companies to be able to have that, because we spent 60,000 hours to create a 3-hour movie, and there is one sentence in it where I just can't hear the actor the way I want to. Man, it'd be really great, instead of having to come in and get them to reshoot and work around that schedule, that I can just make that one sentence to fill the gap. I mean, A, great for the production. 2, great for the actor or actress. Gives them that opportunity to be able to not have to come in and be able to do this. I mean, again, AI is a tool, but it's not the tool.
Speaking about tools, so Hazard, am I pronouncing your name right?
That's correct.
Okay. I think I butchered it first, so just wanted to.
It's a call sign, so yeah.
So, talking about tools, and you alluded to this in the beginning, obviously being a former fighter pilot, you're very used to using tools all the time. But you never cede that human judgment, correct? I mean, that supersedes any tool from my understanding. What would you say is the single biggest habit that corporate leaders could borrow from the cockpit to keep humans in the loop? Because everyone talks about that. Like, hey, we're doing AI, but we still want to have humans in the loop. And it's not going to mean you don't have a job tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's something that we spend a lot of time looking into. Can we replace fighter pilots? Can we replace people at different areas with these, especially critical safety areas? And what we found is that it's really difficult to find all the edge cases. You can use AI to automate a lot of the rote and easy work, but actually having somebody in the loop, humans are incredibly good at being flexible, being able to solve new problems. And so it's really not about just replacing people. It's about finding ways that you can merge and enhance humans, at least in these safety critical areas. So you can replace, some data entry work and things like that. But if you're having a pilot fly, you really want to be able to find a way to merge those two. And so at least the future of air combat is manned fighters flying alongside these drone wingmen. And so did a lot of work with that. But something that's probably a little bit more applicable to the audience is really building leaders that are decisive and can make good, quick judgments. And to be able to do that, you have to understand the big picture. You have to understand how these AI models are working. I can't tell you the number of times that the AI that we worked with when we were fighter pilots would start to go off in kind of a crazy world. Because we always hear in the news that it was a pilot error, but you can't. The number of times that humans have been able to override the AI and save the plane is far greater. And so being able to find leaders that understand the big picture, can understand the model drift, and then to be able to work with the engineers to tweak it, that's a critical skill. And so I think leadership is really changing, and you really need to find these leaders that are decisive, being able to upskill them. They have to understand how the AI is working and to be able to interact with the engineers.
Quick follow-up for you. So a lot of AI companies today are very actively chasing and winning partnerships with the military and various arms in the military. What is one technology that does not exist right now, but you think would be a game changer in the field?
I think continuing to find ways to be able to have drone wingmen flying with manned fighters. So right now, the future is maybe a dozen drone fighters flying alongside 1 or 2 manned fighters. So being able to, I think over time, that'll increase and get greater. And one of the projects I worked on was assessing biometrics for pilots so that you could understand how task saturated the pilot was, and then the AI could be able to adapt to the commands based on how task saturated the pilot was. And so that was a really interesting project, and I think that applies to all of us when you're driving on the road, being able to have the AI and these automations be able to customize to how task saturated you are. If you have a lot of brain bites, as we called it, then you can cede more control over the human. Otherwise, it can become more autonomous. And so being able to find that area and bridge that gap so that humans and AI kind of work seamlessly together, that's really the future, and that's a very difficult problem, especially if you're dealing with a thinking adversary that's specifically trying to target your decision making.
That's a really good point, because it also flips the convention sort of over its head, which is, a lot of the concern, rightfully so, is that a lot of these AI technologies being used by the military are not being used for such great purposes. But then it could also, as you said, if it goes in that direction, actually help save lives. So food for thought. Tarun, so in your role, obviously, you've seen how different organizations, test out AI systems, scale them. What do you think separates the successful folks from the ones that sort of, scale back? And we've seen a lot of stories about that recently out there, like, 1,000 pilots, but 2 go into production.
It's a great question. And we covered some of these themes already, but maybe like one that would be additive is the ones who are able to scale from like 1 to 2 ideas to really like they've indoctrinated AI across multiple use cases and multiple functions across the enterprise is that the top level leadership has like pretty deep literacy as it relates to AI. Like the CEO really like has done some homework. The CFO, same level. They can speak like, peer to peer on where the tech is today. Now they're not experts in like, how do I build an LLM or any of that, but at least understanding the application of AI into business. And then also, where is it going? Like, where is it going to be 12 months from today? Where is it, and you're hypothesizing to some extent, but there is enough out there to help you, like, generally aim in the right direction. So I'd say, like, all of that C-suite top leadership, they tend to demonstrate, like, just deeper expert. They kind of know what they're talking about, And oftentimes, like, I get it. They're all super busy, got other things to do, but, like, sorry, that's, like, brass tacks now. In today's world, you kind of need to put the time and energy into doing that because you need to think future forward about the business, and nothing else will transform your business quite like AI, no matter what it is you do, right? So that's one big theme there. And I think an output of that is a good like top-down prioritization of use cases for today and use cases for tomorrow, right? And really saying, I'm going to go invest in these areas first. So being in the field of marketing, that tends to be one that's happening early because like the tech is there to transform a lot of the functions in marketing today. It might not be there in certain other functions. They may be more esoteric or what have you, but they know where to invest and they really do invest. And then the third piece there is like it's an iterative model where you take like very small like quick bites at it and you say, okay, step 1 we're going to do this, then we're going to go from that to saying how do I maybe like automate a little bit more on that, or how do I bring in 2 other data sets that could help me personalize the outcome with how it's delivered to a customer. So it's a very iterative approach that they take as opposed to being like, this is the experiment, oh shit, it failed, I guess we're not doing that. So it's an element of expectation setting throughout the organization. Because if you set the expectation with someone who's an individual contributor to be like, the AI is going to be magical for you, and it's not, right? But instead if you say, no, don't expect the AI to be better than you, and over time we're going to get there through this path, and this is the role you play in it, right? Then you get better outcomes over time. So that's been a big difference maker also, is like, do you set the right expectations through the organization? So there's this level of like educating the team that's not just the tech, but educating them on like how to work together with the tech, how to provide feedback back upwards, right? And how as a company you will both, I'd say, like evolve, but also transform quickly in different ways. So like that's a big layer as well. What else would I add here? Maybe I think everything else we've talked about, right? The last piece I'll say is we talked about data when we first started this conversation, and it has to be like an always-on thing. So freshness of your data, and especially if you're a CMO, like you're kind of sort of like also a semi-chief data officer now, because you are the nucleus of so much more customer data enrichment, which has applications like in 15 different parts of the business now with AI, right? So making sure you're thinking about like what is the next set of data that I can leverage and use it across a bunch of different use cases.
Contrarian perspectives, please share them. The questions are intended to be, nudging you in those directions. But the first one is, and this is a concern, not to take it lightly, I believe, at least in my job, that I'm definitely using more AI, but I'm kind of drawing my own demise, so to speak, because a lot of jobs will change and evolve at the very least. But if you could redraw a Fortune 500 org chart for an AI first era, what role would you make disappear and what role would you invent?
Oh, geez. I mean, I think the ones we'd want to make disappear are the ones that we don't want to deal with day in and day out. And I don't mean to say that in a coy way, but like there are certain functions that are compliance and in the ways, and we joke around of like growth inhibitors and things like that, but their job is to protect and their job is to do it, but it's also very rules based. And so when things are very rules based, that can be very, I'd say very easy. It's easier than to be able to automate and to be able to use AI in order to be able to help speed along the process and help things move faster, help ship code out, be able to get things into the market faster. I mean, again, I liked using your reference from those ones, but you said a good word. You said evolve for those ones. Like, I think, the functional org chart that we see today is probably going to look very different in the next 10 years. And it doesn't mean everyone's going to wake up and say, oh, no, there's not a CFO anymore. No, you're always going to need to have people, no matter how much automation there is, on the loop, making sure things are working and executing against the strategy as intended. And for those, but I do think it is going to be an evolution over a period of time. But because again, I keep using the term tool, like AI is a tool for everyone, and it's going to change everyone's function. And there's, that cliche's been out there where people saying like, I'm not going to lose my job to AI, I'm going to lose my job to a person using AI. That could not be more true. But it's going to vary by information. So I know from my perspective, if I was going to redo an org chart without it, it would be the ones that are viewed in the way of our team's ability to be able to make progress. And those are the ones that we're going to look to probably want to automate first.
Can we get more specific, the rest of you?
Is this being recorded and is this all off the record?
I mean, I don't mind saying, I think some of the roles, and you already mentioned, that are more clerical and administrative, more rules-based, will most likely be eliminated. However, there still will be roles needed for the oversight and to understand. I think what we need to create, I agree it's an evolution and it's going to take time. Well, I don't believe AI should be a group. I think it's really important to have that leadership at the highest level to make sure you have the compliance, the data infrastructure, the governance. But the most important thing, and I've seen this personally, but I also, and when I speak to other organizations that have gone through massive transformation, what are the things that were most important for success? And again, I'm seeing this too. It's the change management. It's the upskill. It's the reskill. You can build a tool, but if you don't have the buy-in or the trust from your team members to use it or your customers, then you lost. And so I think that's the most important thing, is having more of the change management, upskill, reskill, and it's ongoing training. It does, things evolve very quickly. And that's the way, personally, I think we need to be able to embed it throughout the organization. AI is not just tech. AI has to be embedded at all layers of the organization and part of the foundation.
Well, before Hazard and Tarun answer it, the functions that come to my mind that are already being transformed quite a lot: customer service, and in the future, maybe executive assistants, because you can sort of, especially with agentic AI taking off, outsource it to AI systems. Thoughts there?
I would say the importance of leadership with middle management is going to be increasing as anytime an organization is shifting, there's a lot of change going on. You're going to need middle managers that have a human-centered approach. There's a lot of people that are scared, a lot of people in their 50s, 60s in the job that are going to have a tough time adapting to the change. And so I know we have a lot of talk about AI and how that's automating and replacing everything. But I think the core of having leaders that have a human-centric approach that can resonate with people, can get buy-in, can get them to take ownership and work together as a team is going to be way more important in the future because the pace of change is increasing.
Tarun, for you specifically, what marketing function do you think will change? We just saw news coming out of Google last week and Meta. They're automating a lot of the media buying and creation process.
Easy answer, all of them. Next question. Just kidding.
There are marketers in the room, so you're going to have to elaborate.
So look, I think there's a domino effect, and I don't think it's like, maybe call me an optimist or what have you, but eliminating jobs as opposed to just changing the nature of like the work you do, and frankly how difficult the work will get because you have access now to things you didn't have before, right? So I think more along those lines than like, oh no, I don't have a job anymore, right? So some of it's on us to reinvent. Like, you got this new tool, what are you going to do with it to like up level, right? So I think some of it's on us, but I think there's this domino effect of like, if you look across the value chain of marketing, it usually starts with like trying to understand what's going on with your customer and the market. And then from there comes a plan, from there comes a brief, from there comes media, from there comes campaigns, blah, blah, blah. You get it, right? But like even that first thing, like how many of us are marketers in the room? Have you run media mix models or MMMs, right? How long does that take on average in the past for you to get one? A few months? Yeah? What if you could get it in like 60 seconds? Because you can with AI. And then you could do it by customer segment or by product type or both. Now you have like way more information than you did before. What are you going to do with it? Do you need more people to action it? Or maybe you have AI do some other things that are more complicated with that. But literally, this means that you could change the way in which you invest your media every single minute of every day. Like, that's a little like almost intimidating, right? So I share that as an example of like, I don't think like everything's automated and you can just like go away. You do need, and I talked about those three layers. There's the technician layer, there's the operator layer, and then there's the supervisor layer, right? And we will all have some element of that in our jobs. So some of us may be like mostly supervisors and barely technicians, and some of us will be the opposite, and most will probably be like in the middle where like it looks like a normal curve with the two on the other side, right? So I think I already forgot what the question was.
No,
but,
that's you answered it, and how the question was what's going to happen to marketing roles in particular.
Only good things. Only good
I
things.
love the three-layered approach that you brought up. I think that's a really good way to think about it for the marketers in the room. I also see a lot of my investor friends in the room. So I already asked Hazard this, but question for the three of you: what is one AI tool or technology that you haven't come across yet, but would make your life a lot easier?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I mean, there's a number. I mean, having just had to do this last week, employee reviews. You know, just being able something that can summarize all the different outputs, the different data to those. Like, I mean, again, I love what you're talking about the access to data that's there, because like it's getting more and more personalized. And so we think about, if we go through the day and I literally document on a task by task basis just the things that I do on Orchel, what is daily, what is monthly, what is quarterly, what is annually. I mean, and you start to compound these things, like just that would be a little thing like, wow, I mean, I actually did drop a few comments and like, hey, can you help me come up with something more constructive into a few different LLMs, and being able to pull that, just because by the time you're on number 10, you know, my creative juice is drained when it comes to that HR function.
I wonder if I could get Copilot to go through all the positive feedback I've gotten from my annual review. Good point. Tarun and Emanuela?
Yep.
Oh, I think something you said kind of resonated with me. All the documentation that I have to do, and summarizing it, and getting action towards it. So, looking more to the future of some of the tasks that we need to do to automate it, and I need to do it. Maybe that's a very vague question or answer, but I spend too much time reading. That's the other thing. Actually, something that can clean up my emails and answer appropriately or forward appropriately would be the most beautiful thing ever.
So this is a hard question, and I'm like, So the one thing I'm thinking with my marketer hat on again, right? I think like personalization of surfaces as opposed to like the media or the whatever else comes behind the scenes is really something that I wish existed. So if I went to a website, right, like how can the words on a product detail page be different for me because you understand me? Right? If I talk to a chat bot on your website, like, how do you know that, like, I'm kind of a techie nerd, so, like, let's get into some detail here, right? As opposed to somebody else who may not be. I want some level of, like, hyper-personalization without, but I do want control. But it's got to be easy. Like, don't give me, like, 80 knobs. Give me the ability to actually set. I want to be in the driver's seat as a consumer.
It sounds like a writer. You know what writer is?
I do know.
On steroids.
Yeah, sure. One aspect of that could be writer on steroids. Yes.
All right. Now this is the fun last bit, which is the rapid fire round. So again, going back to your intros, we're gonna keep it short and snappy, but finish the sentence. By summer of 2026, the headline I want to read about AI deployment is?
It's foundational, not just use cases.
It delivers on the promise of operational excellence.
It is creating significant revenue increases for companies and cutting costs.
That would be the holy grail.
Yeah.
We have more trust and control.
All right, last question, everyone. One mistake that you think you've made on your AI journey, and one decision you're glad you made.
I can list 10 mistakes I've made, to be honest with you, but the biggest mistake is not getting the buy-in across the entire organization and only at the leadership level.
And one thing you're glad you did early?
Glad I did early was to actually get more business leaders and subject matter experts involved and customers involved when defining some of those use cases.
Mistake is probably not be aggressive enough with the customers on adoption. And best thing was giving full access to a few different tools to the entire staff.
Mistake would be focusing on the technology and not the people. When you do that, people form this antibody against the technology, and it makes it extremely difficult to be able to get that buy-in. So focusing on the people first, and then the technology. I think what we got right was being early. So this was like 2017, which was pretty early for aviation-related AI adoption. So I think that was the benefit.
Maybe a mistake to riff on what Hazard said. I was too focused on models and not enough on workflows. Like models are like shoes now. I'm realizing like you're gonna wear a different pair depending on what the day of the week is, right? And we should be designing things to effectively run that way. And it took me a minute to be like, oh, like who cares that this model can do this right now? Like don't over anchor on that piece. What was the other part of the question again?
What is one thing you're glad you did early?
Oh, come here. This is like my fourth or so of these. And so like a lot of the people I've met here, right? Like we're seeing each other again, and conversation that was had over coffee here has led to like all kinds of different adventures with many of you. So I'm super thankful for that. So to the organizers, hugely appreciated, and hope to continue that with many of you that are maybe first time here or returning as well. But yeah, thank you for having me.
What I'm hearing, Greg, Amit, and Shiv, is we need a retreat. But on that note, the takeaway here is models are commoditized. All the investors in the room will hopefully agree with that. And how you should start today is by looking at how AI can help you automate your workflow and not be too concerned about which tool. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you, all of you, for such a fun panel discussion.